The great chamber floated in the darkness of space like a jewel made of metal and light. Inside, representatives from 12 different alien species sat in their designated sections, waiting for the emergency session to begin. The air smelled strange, a mixture of different atmospheres that the station system struggled to balance for all the different life forms present. Captain Daiho Kim stood near the human section, his uniform crisp and his expression carefully neutral. He had spent 30 years in diplomatic service, long enough to know when trouble was coming. Today felt like one of those days. Beside him, Commander Hedgen Park reviewed data on her tablet, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. "They found something," she whispered to Daiho. "The Vrelians have been scanning the outer edges of our system." Daiho nodded slightly but said nothing. 300 meters away, Ambassador Minho Lee sat at the human delegation's desk, preparing his notes. Minho was younger than Daiho, only 45 years old, but he carried himself with the weight of someone much older. Every human diplomat learned early that showing weakness in the Galactic Council meant inviting disaster. The chamber's lights dimmed, and a holographic display activated in the center of the room. High Counselor Vrexith of the Dravik Collective rose from his seat. The insectoid warrior stood nearly 3 meters tall, his chitinous armor reflecting the chamber's lights. His species had conquered over 200 worlds in the past 5 centuries. They did not ask questions gently. "This council convenes to address a matter of galactic security," Vrexith announced, his voice translated by the station's systems into dozens of languages simultaneously. 3 standard weeks ago, our scanning arrays detected an unusual energy signature in the Sol system. The signature was massive, unlike anything a species of humanity's level should possess. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several species turned to look at the human section with suspicion or curiosity. Daiho kept his face blank, but his heart beat faster. After all these years, someone had finally noticed. A holographic image appeared above the council floor. It showed a section of space in the outer asteroid belt of humanity's home system. Strange readings pulsed in the darkness, energy levels that suggested something large and powerful hidden among the rocks. "We demand an explanation," said Commander Threlk of the Vrelian Empire. The reptilian officer's scales were a deep green, marked with scars from countless battles. "Humanity has been suspiciously quiet about their deep space activities. We have treaties that require disclosure of all military installations." Minho stood slowly and walked to the speaking platform. Every eye in the chamber followed him. He activated his own display, showing mining operations and research stations throughout human space. "Honored council members," Minho began, his voice steady. "The signature you detected is from our mining and research operations in the Kuiper Belt. We have facilities there studying asteroid composition and extracting rare materials. There is nothing unusual about this." "Nothing unusual?" Vrexith clicked his mandibles together, a sound of disbelief. "The energy readings suggest a structure the size of a small moon. What kind of mining operation requires such power?" "Advanced extraction techniques," Minho replied smoothly. "We've been developing new methods to process materials more efficiently. The power requirements are substantial, but I assure you, this is purely civilian infrastructure." Daiho watched the other species carefully. Some seemed to accept the explanation. Others, like the Dravik and Vrelians, clearly did not. The problem was that humanity had been weak for so long that nobody believed they could hide anything significant. That assumption had been humanity's greatest protection. For 3 centuries, Earth had played the role of a minor species. They maintained a small fleet of outdated vessels, paid their council fees, and stayed quiet during major galactic events. Other species barely remembered humans existed most of the time. That was exactly what humanity wanted them to think. A representative from the Keltheran Unity spoke next. The crystalline being's voice chimed like bells. "If this is truly civilian infrastructure, humanity will not object to a full inspection of all facilities in the Sol system." The chamber went silent. Minho hesitated for just a moment, too brief for most species to notice, but Daiho caught it. This was the trap. If humanity refused inspection, it proved they were hiding something. If they allowed it, the secret that generations had died to protect would be exposed. "The human government will need time to consider this request," Minho said carefully. "We respect the Council's concern, but we also have rights to privacy regarding our civilian operations. We will provide a formal response within 30 standard days. Vrexith slammed one of his clawed limbs against his desk. Unacceptable. The Council demands immediate access. Every day of delay gives humanity time to hide whatever weapons they are developing. Weapons? Minho's voice took on a hint of offense. High Counselor, humanity barely maintains enough vessels to patrol our own system. What possible threat could we pose to species with fleets 1,000 times larger than ours? It was a good argument, and it worked on some of the Council members. After all, humanity's visible military was pathetic compared to the great powers. Earth maintained exactly 47 warships, most of them outdated designs purchased from other species or cobbled together from salvaged technology. The human fleet was a joke among the galactic military. That was the point. The Council session continued for another 2 hours. Representatives argued back and forth about humanity's rights versus galactic security. Finally, Council Speaker Theron, an ancient being whose species had mediated conflicts for thousands of years, called for a vote. Humanity will be given 30 standard days to permit inspection teams access to all military and civilian installations in the Sol system, Theron announced. If humanity refuses or attempts to delay beyond this period, the Council will impose sanctions and consider quarantine measures to contain potential threats. The vote passed overwhelmingly. Only 2 species abstained and none voted against it. Minho bowed respectfully to the Council and returned to his seat. His expression remained calm, but Daiho could see the tension in his shoulders. As the session ended and representatives began filing out of the chamber, Hijin leaned close to Daiho. They're going to find it. There's no way to hide something that large for another month. I know, Daiho replied quietly. He pulled out a secure communication device and typed a brief message to Earth Command. The response came back within seconds, just 2 words that changed everything. Wake her. Daiho closed his eyes for a moment. After 287 years of secrecy, of hiding and patience and careful planning, it was finally time. The universe was about to learn what humanity had built while the galaxy looked away. He opened his eyes and looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there in the darkness, in a section of space humanity had claimed as worthless rock and ice, something ancient and terrible was about to wake up. Something that would make every species in the Galactic Council reconsider everything they thought they knew about the weak, pathetic humans. Captain Daiho Kim allowed himself the smallest smile. Let them come, he whispered. Let them see what patience and desperation can build. Dr. Soyun Choi walked through the memorial halls with slow, reverent steps. The walls displayed names, millions of names. Each one represented a person who died during the First Contact War, and each one reminded humanity why they could never be weak again. Do you understand now? Soyun asked the young officer beside her. Lieutenant Junho was fresh from the academy, barely 23 years old. He stared at the walls with wide eyes, trying to comprehend the scale of loss displayed before him. 6 billion people, Junho whispered. In just 18 months. 6,200,700,000, Soyun corrected gently. We know the exact number. We will always know the exact number. The memorial hall stood in what used to be Seoul, though the city looked nothing like it once had. The Kryn Dominion had bombed it flat during the war. The aliens viewed humans as little more than clever animals, resources to be eliminated so Earth's minerals and water could be harvested efficiently. Soyun moved to a display showing footage from the war. The images were difficult to watch. Kryn warships, each one the size of a city, hovering over Earth's population centers, weapons firing down in brilliant streams of light, cities vanishing in seconds, the oceans boiling in some places. They came in 2558, Soyun explained. First contact happened on a Tuesday. By Friday, every major city on Earth was destroyed. Our military tried to fight back, but our weapons barely scratched their shields. We had nothing that could stop them. How did we survive? Junho asked. Soyun smiled grimly. Stubbornness, luck, and one very desperate plan. She led him to another section of the museum. This area showed Earth's resistance efforts. Humans fighting with whatever they could find, building weapons in underground factories, learning to survive in the ruins of their civilization. The war lasted 18 months, but it felt like 18 years to those who lived through it. The Kryn made a mistake, Soyun said. They assumed that destroying our cities meant destroying our spirit. They were wrong. Every attack made us more determined. Every loss made us more dangerous. We learned to fight in ways they didn't expect. The displays showed human guerrilla tactics, ambushes using captured alien technology, suicide attacks against Kryn supply lines, desperate acts by desperate people who knew they had nothing left to lose. And then the tide turned, Soyon continued. We captured a Kryn supply ship intact. Our scientists tore it apart, learning everything they could. Within 3 months, we understood their technology better than they did. Within 6 months, we were building weapons that could hurt them. The final battle of the First Contact War played on the screens. Human ships, crude and ugly compared to alien vessels, but effective. The Kryn retreated not because they were defeated, but because humans had become too costly to exterminate. The aliens left, but everyone knew they could return whenever they wanted. That's when Project Cheonsa began, Soyon said quietly. She led Junho to a secure elevator that descended deep underground. The ride took 5 minutes, dropping them nearly 2 kilometers below the surface. When the doors opened, they entered a command center buzzing with activity. Admiral Taijin Huang stood at the center of the room, reviewing holographic displays, showing ship designs and construction schedules. The Admiral was 70 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. He noticed Soyon and Junho approaching and nodded in greeting. Doctor, Lieutenant? He gestured at the displays around him. We're bringing her home. Junho stared at the images in confusion. Admiral, what am I looking at? Humanity's insurance policy, Taijin replied. After the Kryn War, we made a decision. We couldn't stop another invasion with conventional forces. Every species in the galaxy had better technology, larger fleets, more resources. If we tried to compete directly, we would lose. So we cheated, Soyon added with a slight smile. Taijin pulled up a new display. It showed an asteroid in the Kuiper Belt, far from Earth. In 2560, we started Project Cheonsa. We took every resource we could spare, every engineer who survived the war, every scientist who knew how alien technology worked. We sent them to the outer system with one mission: build something that would make the galaxy think twice about attacking Earth again. The display zoomed into the asteroid, revealing that it was hollow. Inside, enormous construction bays stretched for kilometers. Thousands of workers moved like ants, building something massive. It took 127 years, Taijin said. 5 generations of workers lived and died in those construction bays. Children were born there, grew up there, grew old there, never seeing Earth. All working on a ship they knew they would never see completed. Junho's voice was barely a whisper. What kind of ship takes that long to build? Not a ship, Taijin corrected. A statement. A promise, a threat. Cheonsa is all of those things. Soyon pulled up technical specifications. The Supercarrier is 30 kilometers long. It has 12 fusion reactors, each capable of powering an entire planet. The manufacturing bays can produce a destroyer-class vessel every 6 hours. The hangar facilities can house 200,000 automated fighters. The weapon systems, and she paused. The weapon systems use technology that most species believe is only theoretical. Junho sat down heavily, overwhelmed. How did we keep this secret? By being patient, Taijin replied. By playing weak for 3 centuries. By making the galaxy forget we existed. Every species thinks humans are harmless, barely worth noticing. We paid our council fees, maintained our pathetic little fleet, and never caused problems. Meanwhile, generation after generation worked in secret, building our future. Counselor Jiwon Nam entered the command center, her civilian clothes contrasting with the military uniforms around her. She represented Earth's government in all matters regarding Project Cheonsa. The Galactic Council gave us 30 days, Jiwon said without preamble. That's not enough time to prepare proper protocols. If we bring Cheonsa to Earth now, it will cause panic throughout the galaxy. Good, Taijin replied coldly. Let them panic. Let them understand what we've been doing while they ignored us. This could start a war, Jiwon warned. The war started 300 years ago when the Kryn tried to exterminate us, Taijin shot back. Every day since then has been preparation for the next one. Cheonsa isn't a weapon of conquest, Counselor. She's a weapon of survival. Jiwon sighed but nodded. She knew the Admiral was right. Humanity had learned a hard lesson during the First Contact War. In the galaxy, strength was the only language everyone understood. Diplomacy only worked when backed by the threat of violence. How long until Cheonsa is operational? Jiwon asked. Captain Jisoo is initiating wake-up procedures now, Taijin replied. Full power in 72 hours. Transit time to Earth is 1 week at standard speed. Make it 3 days, G1 ordered. If we're revealing ourselves, let's make it dramatic. I want Cheonsa to arrive at Council Space exactly on the deadline they gave us. Tajin smiled for the first time that day. As you wish, Counselor. He turned to the communication station. Send the order. All hands to station. Activate primary systems. Bring Cheonsa online. Throughout the command center, officers moved with renewed purpose. After 287 years, humanity's secret was about to be revealed. The galaxy had forgotten what happened when you pushed humans too far. When you made them choose between extinction and evolution, they were about to remember. The darkness of the Kuiper Belt had been home to a secret for nearly 3 centuries. Among the ice and rock floating at the edge of humanity's solar system, something massive stirred for the first time in over 100 years. Captain Jisoo Kang stood on the command bridge of Cheonsa, watching as systems came online one by one. The bridge stretched for nearly a kilometer, with hundreds of stations arranged in concentric circles around her command platform. Every station now showed green lights where moments before there had been only darkness. Main Reactor 1 online. Chief Engineer Yuna Oh reported from deep within the ship's engineering section. Power output stable at 30%, bringing Reactor 2 online now. Jisoo felt the deck vibrate beneath her feet as the second fusion reactor activated. Each reactor was the size of a large building, capable of producing enough energy to power an entire civilization. Cheonsa had 12 of them. All personnel, this is Captain Kang, she spoke into the ship-wide communication system. We have waited a long time for this moment. Our parents waited. Their parents waited. For generations our families have lived in these construction bays, building and maintaining this vessel for a day that many thought would never come. Today is that day. Today, we show the galaxy what humanity has built. 50,000 crew members occupied stations throughout the massive vessel. Most were descendants of the original construction workers, families who had spent their entire existence in the cold darkness of the outer system. They had been born for this purpose, trained from childhood to operate systems so complex that it took years just to understand the basics. Lieutenant Dongwoo Shin sat in the pilot seat of Fighter Bay 7, running diagnostics on his craft. The fighter was sleek and deadly, its hull made of materials that cost more than an entire planetary economy. The weapon systems alone represented technology decades ahead of anything the Galactic Council possessed. Bay 7, this is Flight Command, a voice crackled over his helmet speakers. We need you to run a test flight. Standard patrol pattern 10,000 kilometers out and back. Understood, Flight Command, Dongwoo replied. His hands moved across the controls, bringing the fighter's systems online. The cockpit came alive with displays showing every system functioning perfectly. 3 centuries of careful maintenance meant that every fighter was in pristine condition. The bay doors opened, revealing the star field beyond. Dongwoo felt his heart race as he guided his fighter out into space. He was the first pilot to fly from Cheonsa in 287 years. The responsibility was enormous. As he cleared the bay, his sensors showed him the true scale of the Supercarrier for the first time. The ship was so large that his mind struggled to process it. 30 kilometers of metal and technology, bristling with weapons and hangar bays. It looked less like a ship and more like a mobile city floating in the void. This is incredible, he whispered. Focus, Lieutenant, his squadron commander replied. We need clean test data. Run your patrol pattern. Back on the bridge, Jisoo watched the test flight with satisfaction. Fighter operations were critical. Cheonsa carried 200,000 automated fighters in its bays, each one controlled by a combination of human pilot and artificial intelligence. The human provided strategic thinking and adaptability. The AI provided reaction times measured in microseconds. Captain, we're detecting multiple vessels approaching, the sensor officer announced. Frelian battle group, 60 ships, bearing directly toward our position. Jisoo had expected this. The moment Cheonsa began powering up, every sensor within a light year would have detected the energy signature. The Vrelian Empire maintained patrol groups throughout the galaxy, always looking for threats to their dominance. Display them on the main screen, she ordered. The holographic display showed the approaching vessels, 60 warships, each one larger than Earth's biggest destroyer. In any normal situation, this force could conquer a small star system. The Vrelians clearly expected to overwhelm whatever human installation they had detected. They're hailing us. Captain, the communications officer said. Put them through. The screen changed to show Commander Threlk of the Vrelian Empire, his reptilian features twisted in anger. Human vessel, this is Commander Threlk. You are operating an illegal military installation in violation of Galactic Council treaties. Power down your systems immediately and prepare to be boarded. Jisoo kept her expression neutral. Commander Threlk, this is Captain Jisoo Kang of the Earth defense ship Cheonsa. We are conducting authorized operations in human-controlled space. You are ordered to maintain your distance. Threlk's eyes widened slightly at the mention of Earth defense ship, but his voice remained aggressive. You dare to give me orders? Human, my fleet could destroy your station with a single volley. I will ask one more time. Power down and prepare for inspection. Request denied, Jisoo replied calmly. Maintain minimum safe distance of 50,000 kilometers. Any vessel crossing that threshold will be considered hostile. Threlk laughed, a harsh sound that the translator struggled to render properly. Hostile? Your species maintains fewer than 50 warships in total. My fleet alone could conquer your homeworld. Stand down or I will open fire. Jisoo nodded to her weapons officer. Light her up. Throughout Cheonsa, weapons systems that had been dormant for centuries came online. Point defense arrays, railguns, particle beam projectors, missile tubes. Hundreds of weapon systems activated simultaneously, each one targeting specific vessels in the Vrelian fleet. The Vrelian sensors screamed warnings. Commander Threlk stared at his tactical display in disbelief as his ships were suddenly locked by more weapons than he had ever seen in one place. What is this? He demanded. This isn't possible. Human technology can't— Commander, Jisoo interrupted, her voice still calm. You're looking at 300 years of secret development. You're looking at what humans build when we're afraid of extinction. You're looking at the reason Earth survived the first contact war and every threat since. Now I will say this one final time. Maintain your distance. The Vrelian fleet slowed, then stopped, holding position exactly at the 50,000-kilometer mark. Threlk's expression had changed from anger to uncertainty, to something approaching fear. Command, this is Threlk. He spoke into his own communication system, no longer addressing the humans. I need immediate reinforcement and authorization for military action. The humans have— I don't know what they have. It's massive. Sensors are reading power output equal to a small star. I'm holding position, but I need orders. Jisoo allowed herself a small smile. Yuna, status on the main engines? Ready for ignition, Captain, the chief engineer replied. Though I should warn you, when we light these up for the first time, every sensor in the solar system is going to notice. That's the point, Jisoo said. All hands prepare for main engine ignition. Helm, plot a course for Earth, best possible speed. Course plotted, Captain. 3 days to Earth at maximum acceleration. Very good. Yuna on my mark. 3, 2, 1, ignite. The 12 fusion reactors surged to full power simultaneously. Energy flowed through systems designed to channel forces that could tear apart planets. The main engines, each one the size of a skyscraper, came alive with fire that burned bright enough to be seen across the solar system. The asteroid base that had concealed Cheonsa for centuries crumbled under the force of the engine's firing. Rocks that had hidden the secret broke apart and tumbled away, revealing the full scale of humanity's achievement. On Earth, astronomers stared at their instruments in confusion. A new star had appeared at the edge of the solar system, burning impossibly bright. Within minutes, military sensors identified the source. Earth Defense Command erupted in celebration. After waiting for nearly 3 centuries, their patience was finally rewarded. In the Vrelian fleet, Commander Threlk watched helplessly as the massive vessel accelerated away. His sensors struggled to track something so large moving so fast. It defied everything he knew about physics and engineering. Report to Council Command, he said quietly to his communications officer. Tell them we found what the humans were hiding. Tell them— He paused, searching for words to describe what he had witnessed. Tell them everything has changed. The emergency session of the Galactic Council erupted into chaos the moment the holographic display showed the first clear images of Cheonsa. Representatives from 12 species shouted over each other, some in fear, others in outrage, all of them trying to understand what they were seeing. High Counselor Vrexith of the Dravik Collective slammed his clawed appendages against his desk repeatedly, demanding silence. The insectoid warrior's compound eyes reflected the light of the display showing humanity's supercarrier. This is an act of war, Vrexith declared. Humanity has built a weapon capable of threatening every civilization in this council. We cannot allow this to stand. They violated every treaty regarding military development, added a Keltheran representative, their crystalline body vibrating with agitation. 3 centuries of secret construction, 3 centuries of lying to this council. Ambassador Minho stood at the human delegation platform, his face showing careful neutrality, despite the anger directed at him from all sides. Honored council members, please remember that humanity never signed treaties limiting our defensive capabilities. We signed treaties regarding aggressive expansion and territorial claims. Cheonsa is a defensive vessel built to protect our homeworld. Defensive? Vrexith's mandibles clicked in disbelief. That vessel could destroy entire fleets. It could bombard planets from orbit. Nothing about it is defensive. Neither was the Kryn invasion that killed 6 billion of my people, Minho replied, his voice cold. But we learned from that experience. We learned that in this galaxy, weakness invites destruction. We learned that the only species who survive are those strong enough to defend themselves. Before the argument could continue, alarms began blaring throughout the council station. The sensor officer, a member of a neutral observer species, spoke with urgency. Multiple fleet movements detected. Dravik, Vrelian, Korthan, and 3 other species have mobilized military forces. Current count: 800 warships converging on a single vector. The chamber went silent. Everyone understood what this meant. 800 ships represented the largest military force assembled in 2 centuries. The council was preparing for war. They're moving to intercept the human vessel, the sensor officer continued. Estimated time to engagement, 4 hours. Minho felt ice in his stomach. He activated his personal communicator, sending an emergency message to Captain Jisoo. The response came back quickly. Understood. We will not retreat. On Cheonsa's bridge, Captain Jisoo reviewed the tactical situation with her senior officers. 800 vessels represented a significant threat, even to a ship as powerful as theirs. The problem was that Cheonsa had never been tested in actual combat. All their simulations and calculations were based on theory and projected capabilities. They want to stop us before we reach council space, Wing Leader Sunho Bayek observed. He commanded one of Cheonsa's fighter squadrons and had spent years training for exactly this scenario. If we retreat now, we prove we're afraid. If we engage, we might start a war. We won't retreat, Jisoo stated firmly, and we won't fire first. But we will defend ourselves. She opened ship-wide communications. All crew, battle stations. This is not a drill. We have 800 hostile vessels moving to intercept us. They believe we are weak, because humans have always been weak. They believe our ship is untested and vulnerable. Let's show them how wrong they are. Throughout Cheonsa, 50,000 crew members moved to combat positions they had practiced countless times but never performed for real. In the fighter bays, pilots climbed into their cockpits. In engineering, UNA ensured all systems were operating at peak efficiency. On the bridge, weapons officers armed systems that had never been fired in anger. Lieutenant Dongwu strapped into his fighter, feeling the familiar weight of the flight suit and helmet. Around him, 9,999 other pilots did the same. 10,000 fighters represented only 5% of Cheonsa's total capacity, but it would be enough for what came next. All fighters. This is Wing Leader Sunho. The commander's voice echoed through every cockpit. Our mission is simple. Show them what human pilots can do. These are not the crude interceptors Earth's fleet uses. These are machines designed by people who spent 3 centuries perfecting every system. Trust your ships. Trust your training. Trust each other. The fighter bays opened and 10,000 vessels streamed out of Cheonsa like angry insects defending their hive. Each fighter moved with impossible precision, coordinated by systems that linked human consciousness with artificial intelligence. The pilots didn't just control their ships, they became their ships, thinking and reacting at speeds no organic mind could achieve alone. The enemy fleet approached in standard battle formation, confident in their numerical superiority. High Counselor Vrexith commanded from his flagship, a dreadnought that had conquered 15 star systems. He watched the human fighters deploy and felt contempt rather than concern. 10,000 fighters against 800 capital ships, he mused. The humans are desperate. His tactical officer studied the sensor readings with growing confusion. Commander, the fighters are moving in patterns I've never seen before. Their coordination is perfect. Too perfect. Impossible, Vrexith replied. No species can coordinate that many vessels without communication lag. They're bluffing, trying to intimidate us. The human fighters struck like a surgical blade. They moved in formations that seemed to predict every defensive maneuver the enemy fleet attempted. When Vrelian ships fired their weapons, the fighters weren't where the targeting system said they should be. When Korthan vessels tried to use their superior speed, they found human fighters already waiting in their path. Dongwu dove through enemy fire that should have killed him a dozen times. His fighter's AI warned him of threats before his human brain could process them, while his human creativity chose attack angles the AI would never have calculated. Together they were faster and smarter than either could be alone. He fired on a Dravik cruiser, his weapons cutting through shields that should have been impenetrable. The cruiser exploded, and Dongwu was already moving to his next target. Around him, other fighters performed similar miracles of combat. On Cheonsa's bridge, Jisoo watched the battle unfold with satisfaction. Weapons status? Point defense systems engaging incoming missiles, her weapons officer reported. Enemy launch count 3,000 missiles. All targets locked and eliminated. 3,000 missiles vanished in precisely the same number of laser strikes. The enemy fleet had launched what should have been an overwhelming barrage. Cheonsa's automated defense systems treated it as a minor inconvenience. A Dravik dreadnought attempted to ram the Supercarrier, accelerating to maximum speed in a desperate attack. The massive vessel, 2 kilometers long and massing millions of tons, struck Cheonsa's forward shields at terminal velocity. The impact should have crippled any normal ship. Instead, the dreadnought bounced off the shields like a child's toy thrown against a wall. The Dravik vessel tumbled away. Its hull crumpled from the collision while Cheonsa continued forward without slowing. High Counselor Vrexith stared at his tactical display in horror. In 20 minutes of engagement, his fleet had lost 200 ships without forcing the human vessel to fire a single primary weapon. The fighters alone were devastating his forces, and the Supercarrier itself had barely acknowledged their attacks. "Fall back," he ordered, his voice hollow. "All ships retreat to defensive positions." The enemy fleet broke formation and scattered. 800 ships, the pride of 6 different civilizations fleeing from a single human vessel they had planned to destroy. Captain Jisoo opened a channel on all frequencies. "Attention, Galactic Council forces. We did not want this engagement. We seek only to reach Council space and address the concerns raised about our vessel. We have demonstrated our defensive capabilities. We have shown restraint by not pursuing your retreating forces. But make no mistake, we will defend ourselves against any further aggression." She paused, letting her words sink in. Humanity has spent 3 centuries being dismissed as weak and insignificant. We allowed this perception because it suited our purposes, but we are weak no longer. We are insignificant no longer. Stand in our way again and the results will be the same. Wing Leader Sunho led the fighters back to Cheonsa's base. Not a single human pilot had been lost in the engagement. The enemy had lost 200 ships. The message was clear. On the council station, Ambassador Minho watched the battle reports with mixed feelings. They had won, but at what cost? The galaxy now knew humanity's secret. Every species would be recalculating their relationship with Earth. Some would seek alliance. Others would seek ways to eliminate this new threat. But for now, at this moment, humanity had proven something important. They had shown that patience and preparation could overcome even overwhelming odds. They had shown that the weak could become strong if given enough time and determination. Cheonsa continued toward Council space, and this time, nobody moved to stop it. Cheonsa emerged from faster-than-light travel exactly on schedule, positioning itself within visual range of the Galactic Council station. Every delegate with a window could see the massive Supercarrier hanging in space like a steel moon, a constant reminder during all the proceedings that would follow. The timing was perfect. Humanity had 30 days to respond to the Council's demands for inspection. Captain Jisoo delivered on the deadline with hours to spare, but she delivered in a way nobody expected. Instead of allowing inspectors to visit hidden facilities, she brought the facility to them. Inside the Council chamber, chaos reigned for the 3rd time in as many weeks. Ambassador Minho stood at the human delegation platform, waiting patiently for order to be restored. Captain Deho stood beside him, having shuttled over from Cheonsa specifically for this session. Council Speaker Theron finally managed to quiet the various representatives. The ancient being species had mediated galactic conflicts for millennia, but even they seemed unsettled by recent events. This session will address the matter of humanity's military development and the vessel currently positioned near this station, Theron announced. Ambassador Minho, you requested this opportunity to address the council. You may proceed. Minho walked to the center speaking platform. For a moment he simply stood there, looking at the representatives of species that had dismissed humanity for centuries. Then he began to speak. 300 years ago, the Kryn Dominion came to Earth. They did not come to trade. They did not come to talk. They came to exterminate us and take our resources. In 18 months, they killed 6 billion human beings. 6 billion people who had families, who had dreams, who had every right to exist that any species in this chamber possesses. The chamber was silent. Many species remembered the Kryn War, though most had simply watched from afar while humanity nearly died. We survived, Minho continued, but barely. And we learned a lesson that every species in this galaxy already knew. Strength is the only universal language. Weakness invites destruction. So we made a choice. We would never be weak again. We would never again beg for mercy from those who would destroy us. He gestured toward the viewport where Cheonsa was visible. That ship represents 3 centuries of sacrifice. 5 generations of humans lived and died in construction bays in the outer system, building something they would never see completed. Children grew old working on systems they barely understood, all because they believed in a simple truth: their descendants deserved to be safe. You speak of safety, High Counselor Vrexith interrupted, but your vessel could conquer systems. It could destroy planets. How is that defensive? Because we won't use it to conquer, Minho replied. We will use it to survive. There is a difference, though I understand why species who have always been strong struggle to see it. He activated a display showing footage from the recent battle. When your fleet moved to intercept us, we defended ourselves. We could have pursued your retreating vessels. We could have destroyed them all. We chose not to. We have never sought to expand our territory. We have never attacked another species without provocation. We simply refuse to be victims. A representative from the Keltheran Unity spoke up. You deceived this council for 3 centuries. You hid military development in violation of the spirit of our treaties, if not the letter. We hid our survival, Minho corrected. And yes, we deceived you. Because we learned that honesty in this galaxy is often punished while cunning is rewarded. We played by rules we didn't write but had to follow. Now we're rewriting those rules. Captain Deho stepped forward to join Minho at the platform. The question before this council is simple, he said. What kind of galaxy do you want? One where strong species can exterminate weak ones without consequence? Or one where every civilization has the right to defend itself? Your ship tips the balance of power, another representative argued. It makes humanity a major military force overnight. Good, Deho replied bluntly. For 3 centuries, humanity has lived in fear that another species would decide we were inconvenient. Fear that someone would finish what the Kryn started. That fear ends now, not because we want to threaten anyone, but because we refuse to be threatened. Council Speaker Theron raised one appendage for attention. The council must vote on how to proceed. The options are: accept humanity as a major power with full military rights, demand the dismantling of their vessel, or impose sanctions until compliance is achieved. There is a 4th option, Minho interjected. You can recognize that humanity has earned its place at this council, not through aggression, but through survival. We have technology developed through centuries of dedicated research. We have demonstrated both military capability and restraint. We seek partnership, not domination. The vote took 3 hours. Representatives argued, negotiated, and made deals behind closed doors. Species aligned themselves based on whether they saw humanity as a threat or an opportunity. The balance of galactic power was shifting, and everyone wanted to position themselves advantageously. Finally, Council Speaker Theron announced the results. By a vote of 7 species in favor, 3 opposed, and 2 abstaining, this Council officially recognizes humanity as a Tier 1 civilization with full military rights and protections. Minho let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. 3 centuries of work validated in a single vote. Furthermore, Theron continued, humanity is granted 3 permanent seats on this council, acknowledging their new status as a major galactic power. The chamber erupted in discussion again. 3 seats was unprecedented for a single species, but the Council had recognized reality. Humanity now had the military might to enforce their will. Better to bring them into the power structure than force them to operate outside it. On Cheonsa's bridge, Captain Jisoo received the news with quiet satisfaction. Chief Engineer Yuna approached her command platform with a datapad. The Council wants a technical delegation to inspect Cheonsa, Yuna reported. They want to understand our capabilities. Let them look, Jisoo replied. We have nothing to hide anymore. Besides, I want them to see what we built. I want them to understand what humans can achieve when we're properly motivated. There's something else, Yuna said with a slight smile. Admiral Tajan sent new construction orders. We're not building more carriers. What are we building? Science vessels, colony ships, medical frigates. The Admiral says we proved we can build weapons. Now we need to prove we can build peace. Jisoo looked out at the stars beyond her viewport. Somewhere out there, humans would soon be spreading across the galaxy not as conquerors but as equals. The Cheonsa had bought them that opportunity. Days later, Lieutenant Dongwu led a fighter patrol around the Council station. His sensors detected another small craft approaching, transmitting a request to fly alongside his patrol. The pilot was Vrelian, one of the species that had attacked them weeks earlier. Request granted, Dongwu responded. Stay in formation and follow my lead. The 2 fighters flew together through the space around the station, former enemies now flying in peace. It was a small gesture, but symbolic of something larger. Inside the Council station, Ambassador Minho met with representatives from various species. Some wanted trade agreements. Others sought military alliances. All of them now treated humanity with respect rather than dismissal. We're receiving requests for our manufacturing technology, Captain Deho reported. Several species want to know if we'll share our advances. Selectively, Minho replied. We'll share what helps build a stronger galactic community, but we'll keep enough proprietary technology to ensure our security. We're not naive. We never were, Deho agreed. Back on Earth, celebrations continued for days. The species that had been nearly exterminated 3 centuries ago now stood among the greatest powers in the galaxy. Dr. Soyan walked through the memorial halls again, this time with pride rather than sorrow. The names on the wall still represented tragedy. 6 billion people lost would never be forgotten. But their sacrifice had led to this moment. Their deaths had taught humanity the lessons needed to survive. In the construction bays of the outer system, new projects began. Not weapons, but vessels designed to explore, to heal, to build. Humanity had proven they could create instruments of war. Now they would prove they could create instruments of peace. Admiral Tajan reviewed the construction schedules with satisfaction. How long until the first colony ship is ready? He asked his staff. 18 months, Admiral. We're using Cheonsa's manufacturing systems to speed production. Good. The galaxy opened up for us. Let's make sure we use the opportunity wisely. On Cheonsa's bridge, Captain Jisoo received a message from a young officer on Earth. Captain, my daughter asked me a question today. She asked if we're heroes. Jisoo smiled slightly. What did you tell her? I told her we're not heroes. We're survivors. Heroes do great things. Survivors do whatever it takes. That's the right answer, Jisoo replied. We did what we had to do. Nothing more, nothing less. The Supercarrier remained at the Council station not as a threat but as a promise. A reminder that humanity would never again be weak, never again be victims, never again be dismissed as insignificant. The galaxy had shaken when Cheonsa was revealed. Now it was settling into a new balance, one where humans stood as equals among the stars. The universe had changed and humanity had changed with it. Years from now, historians would debate whether Project Cheonsa was the greatest military achievement in human history or simply the greatest act of survival. The truth was that it was both. It was what humanity built when backed into a corner by extinction. It was what patience and determination could create across generations, and most importantly, it was proof that weakness was not permanent. That the victim could become strong, that those who were dismissed could demand respect and receive it. The stars waited, full of possibility and danger. Humanity was ready for both.